Think about the agrarian society lasted 3,000 years, and we could teach processes. I could teach anybody, even people in this room, so no offense intended, to be a farmer. It's a process. You dig a hole, you put a seed in, you put dirt on top, add water, up comes the corn. The information economy is fundamentally different. You have to have a different skill set. You have to have a lot more gray matter.
I must say, America, this is Hugh Hewitt. When Mike Bloomberg tape about farmers surfaced, I thought I had to my guest this morning, South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem, and I just could not wait to talk to her. Good morning, Governor. How are you?
Good morning, Hugh. I'm doing great.
I noted that South Dakota has a $21 billion agricultural industry. You're in the top 10 in production of 25 different agricultural commodities. You have about 32,000 family farms. What'd you make of the Mike Bloomberg dismissal of anyone can be a farmer?
Well, I felt like it was a pompous ignorance. I mean, he obviously has no idea what farmers do. And, and I just am so curious as to who he thinks he is. I mean, really, Hugh, farmers every day they put in long hours, work out in the elements, but they have to understand biology and chemistry and genetics, and all their tractors are GPS programmed now. Their grain handling systems are computer programmed. They do international marketing on a daily basis.
They need to know meteorology. They need to know puts and calls. They've got to have the futures market down. They've got to do the financing that is the most complicated by far because they've got to go through 3 or 4 cycles. It really was an astonishingly ignorant comment.
Yeah, it really was. Even if you're going to put corn in the ground, I mean, it's so precise how you have to plant corn to get the kind of yields and production that we do today that just even that statement is just so out of whack. I don't understand.
And I want to go to something that Secretary Perdue of Agriculture is doing, and you've tweeted about it. It's Grain Bin Safety Week. Now, the reason I bring this up, Mike Bloomberg probably doesn't know what a grain bin is, much less why you need a safety week. But would you explain why that matters?
Well, most of the farms in the country have their own storage systems, and grain bins are, definitely needed for the operation, but they're also dangerous. Corn and wheat, soybeans, all commodities can get out of condition in there. When you're pulling grain out, it can become dangerous for someone to be inside or, for someone to get entrapped. And that happened to my family. We lost my dad when he was just 49 years old from that type of situation. And so I'm just grateful that the Secretary of Agriculture is drawing attention to it because, farmers just get in a hurry and they don't take the time to realize how dangerous it is. Sometimes every single piece of equipment and structure is and can be around them.
I did not know that about your father, and I'm sorry for that loss. But what you just brought up, my brother-in-law grew up on a farm, and he was up at the dawn doing all this sort of stuff. And he said there's so many ways to get hurt on a farm. You can't even count that high, how many different ways you can get hurt on a farm. But that's why farm safety matters a great deal.
Absolutely. And farmers work long hours, and especially during harvest planting season. They're tired. They're out there working around moving equipment and PTO shafts and augers and grain flowing. And so it's just one of those things, you walk by the warning labels on your equipment, you go past the hazard signs, and when you get in a hurry, you just don't make the best decisions. So this is a good week to remind everybody just to slow down and to be safe while you're out there. And there's lots of precautions you can take, too. There's things you can do that will put you in a much better situation and protect your family.
Now, I also want to bring up a book by Evan Thomas, who wrote a terrific biography of Nixon, but has written an even better biography of Sandra Day O'Connor, who was a ranch girl. You might call her a farmer, and the Cowboys can be friend. The life that she lived, which I did not know about as a ranch girl. I mean, out in the middle of nowhere, a lot of hours, long days, getting the chuck wagon out during the roundup. Farmers work very hard. So why is Trump so popular? I mean, again, Donald Trump has never driven a tractor. As far as I know, he might have sat on one, but I doubt very much. It's sort of like he did the lap at Daytona yesterday. I don't think he's done a lap on a tractor, but he has got their support. Why is that?
I think it's because they see that he fights for them, that he doesn't say insulting things like Mike Bloomberg just did. He doesn't take them for granted. I've never heard a farmer I've never heard a president talk about farmers as much as this president has. I mean, have you, Hugh? He seems to bring up farmers every few days and is constantly thinking about their industry. And, for me, agriculture is a national security issue. We have to grow our own food in this country, and that's important to our way of life. So I think this president gets that, and that's why they support him.
I know that he has been very concerned over the farm effect of the China trade showdown. It's not a trade war, it's a national security war, and it's very, very important. And I know that farmers have been hurt. Have the South Dakota farmer been hurt by the China tariffs and back and forth?
No, I think that we've been hurt by China for decades. We've had unfair agreements and trade relationships with China for decades. And so this resolution we've come to with the signing of the Phase 1 agreement is a really big deal for agriculture and for our country because so many things were fixed that had been neglected for years. So now we finally have fair regulatory processes too. They've opened up new markets for us. We have language in this that will protect our IP, that will, our intellectual property, our digital trade, currency manipulation, just all the things that China has done to us over the years. So many of them are addressed, and we're just grateful to finally have a more fair agreement in front of us.
Now, talk a little politics with me, if you will, Governor. I think I've told you before the town of Phillip is named for my wife's family's Scotty
Yes,
Phillip.
yeah.
I told you that. So I try and follow South Dakota through John Thune and Mike Rounds and various people like that. There is not a chance in the world it doesn't vote for Trump, right?
No, South Dakota will vote for President Trump, I believe. They just historically have been a state that will fall in line with conservative values and principles, and that's really why South Dakota does well, is because we are common sense people who work hard every day and understand people who fight for us. So, it's just, and we believe in individuals and people. That's what I see in South Dakota is that, stories and backgrounds and the person itself really matters when it comes to electing people to fight for them every day.
So my key question is, can we extrapolate support for the president in South Dakota to support to other farm regions in the country where in Iowa, obviously, it's dispositive as it is in South Dakota and Wyoming and places like that. But there are farm regions in swing states like Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. Are those farmers, do you think, going to extrapolate from the farm experience in South Dakota?
I hope that those farmers in every region of the country focus on what President Trump has done. Because the tax reform, trade agreements, the regulatory relief he has brought us, they need to be reminded about all of those things that he has fixed. It wasn't too long ago, Hugh, we were talking about waters of the U.S., which was going to give the EPA jurisdiction over all of our land practically and drive up costs that cap and trade, energy policy that would have killed our family farms that he discarded with, and no longer do we have to think about that at night. So just so many of those things that are off the table now because he's in the White House. We need to be reminded of that, and we need to make sure that those agricultural areas are reminded of what he's done in his policies.
No, I got to say, when he repealed the Water of the United States regulations, I spent 30 years getting those permits. I put my kids through college on those permits. I don't know what the poor 404 lawyers out there, but God bless them, because there's a lot more productive stuff to be doing than arguing with the EPA and the Army Corps of Engineers over whether or not you've got a Water of the United States in a drainage ditch. It just doesn't make a lick of sense.
It didn't make any sense. You're right.
So, final question. Coronavirus is locked down China. Has that had any impact on prices yet? Have you seen any additional impact on the agricultural trading markets as a result of coronavirus?
Obviously it's going to bring some volatility into the markets, but we've had low prices for many years. And with USMCA getting done and ratified and signed into place, and then also this Phase 1 agreement, which hasn't been implemented yet but will be soon, should help us rebound. So we're looking forward to better prices, better cash flow, and our farmers taking care of their families and everybody else's family far into the future.
Governor Noem, great to talk to you. Have a great day in South Dakota. Always a pleasure. Follow her at Gov. Kristi, Kristi, Noem, Noem. That's Gov. Kristi Noem.